After ranting about that self-insert fanfiction known as Gotham High, I want to talk about a Batman-related comic book that is not as big, but I consider to be good and much better in quality when comparison. Now, I have followed a couple of YouTubers who have covered comic books, like Linkara, who I mentioned in my Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution review, but I have lost most of the respect I used to have for him. Who I still follow and respect to a better degree include ya boy Zack, formerly known as Diversity in Comics, Yellow Flash, and Just Some Guy. But enough about other people. I'm here to talk about a 3 issues long comic book story that came out 2 months before I was born in 1992 in Batman Legends of the Dark Knight issues 32, 33, and 34 called Blades. Blades is a combination of two genres, a murder mystery and a tragic romance story that are happening at the same time. As a Batman story, it is set close to Batman's earlier years before Dick Grayson joined his crusade as Robin, and after the GCPD has begun to not see Batman as a dangerous vigilante to hunt down. James Gordon is referred to be a captain, so I'd say it's year 2. The story gets its name from the other main character, Cavalier, a rapier-wielding new vigilante who quickly wins over Gotham's approval with his friendly approach to crime fighting and his general resemblance to Zorro, the hero of the people. And Cavalier's Zorro-like approach also actually wins over Batman as well. The two meet approximately 3 times during the story, once per issue, and in their first meeting, Batman is actually ready to confront Cavalier with his trademarked "This is my city" opening, which Cavalier just rebuffs by pointing out that Gotham is big enough for both of them, unintentionally foreshadowing the large number of Bat family operatives in the future. While they talk about crime fighting and the nights in Gotham, Batman is reminded of the old Zorro movies, like the one he saw with his parents before Joy and Shield crossed their path. Because of this, Batman is willing to give Cavalier a chance at taking care of Gotham alongside with him, just barely containing his own fanboyism over Cavalier's Zorro tribute. The sword and the smile. All he needs to do is slash a Z on the wall, and I'm a boy again. But that is not the only reason why Batman gives Cavalier his blessing to work alongside with him to protect Gotham. The main reason is because Batman is currently busy chasing a serial killer targeting the elderly, called by the media as Mr. Lime. Batman is shown to be almost obsessively dedicated in catching Mr. Lime, to the point of where Captain Gordon calls him over to the GCPD with the bat signal to ask him for his assistance, and Batman's deadpan response being, "You want help? Ask the Cavalier." In his hunt for Mr. Lime, Batman is shown to be so adamant to not letting Mr. Lime win to the point of charging into a burning nursing home to rescue an elderly woman who tells him to leave her to die and save himself. But because Batman is Batman, he saves the old woman like he would save anyone. Now see, the story is told with contrast between Batman's and Cavalier's actions as well as their surroundings, where Batman is shown to be angry and frustrated in his hunt for Mr. Lime while working in the dimly lit darkness. Cavalier is portrayed with Zorro-like happy-go-lucky attitude when confronting criminals in an almost daylight bright lighting. And so, when Batman rescues the old woman from the burning retirement home, the Cavalier rescues a woman trying to commit suicide by jumping off a bridge and falls in love with her. This is how the first part of the storyline ends. The second part of Blades opens with a string of robberies happening in Gotham that Batman ignores, still in favor of hunting down Mr. Lime. Cavalier is shown to be elated at Captain Gordon's plea for help in catching the robbers, while also keeping company to the woman he rescued in the previous issue. Now, this was revealed in the previous issue, but since I jumped over it, the Cavalier's real name is revealed to the readers to be Hudson Pyle, a former stunt actor whose original plan for heroism was to get fame in his vigilante activities and then, at the peak of his popularity, to reveal his identity in order to cash in the fortune from glory. But when he rescues the woman, whose name is Ellen, and fell in love with her without telling it to her, his plans change when he feels more responsible for her now. In Batman's hunt for Mr. Lime, he stakes out for him in an awarding ceremony to a 60-year-old acting veteran, as in that he has been in the business for 60 years, who, as a member of the elderly, would be an ideal target for Mr. Lime. The actor's life is threatened by a bomb placed under the stage where he is giving his acceptance speech. With a bunch of detective tools, Batman is able to locate the bomb and rescue the actor. But the shrapnel from the explosion hits Batman to the back of his head. And apparently, at his second year, Batman had not reinforced his cowl to protect his head from high impact projectiles just yet. Okay, back to those robberies I mentioned earlier. They are shown to be committed by a shadowy figure, a male as shown here, under orders by this guy, a gangster named Randall Salt. Apparently, the robber is also coerced into it. And who is this robber, you might ask? Hudson. Buddy, you know you could have used a ski mask to remain anonymous instead of your well recognizable bright red Cavalier mask. Now your reputation is ruined and even Batman hates you. This time there is no banter, no smile, no laughing eyes. What I see is a criminal. What I see are pristine childhood memories tarnished. I hope he sees his worst nightmare. This is the second meeting between Batman and the Cavalier, and it's a chase scene where Batman is still recovering from the head trauma he got from the bomb when rescuing the actor. He is struggling in trying to catch Cavalier on the gyrobat he is flying on, while Cavalier discovers that he is actually enjoying the thrill of being chased. I don't believe it. I'm enjoying this too. I was ashamed at first that committing crimes was as exciting as stopping them. Yet now, capture. I'm about to be caught, and I'm enjoying the rush too much to care. Thanks to Batman's head trauma and not having rested during his hunt for Mr. Lime, he crashes the Bat Gyro when Cavalier throws a knife into his rotors and almost dies in the crash due to his disoriented and tired state. Cavalier rescues Batman by pulling him away from the burning wreckage and tells him as he tries to gather strength to get up, "Remember, I could have let you in the flames, or I could kill you now, kill you face to face, make sure you were dead. Be sure I was safe from you, if I were a murderer. Until next time, Batman, adieu." Now, when moving to the third part of Blades and the storyline's conclusion, I must inform you that if you want to go pick up and read the story on your own, this is where I go to spoilers. Spoilers which include the motivations for Cavalier to suddenly becoming a thief, who Mr. Lime is, and why he kills the elderly, as well as the final confrontation between Batman and the Cavalier. Skip to this time code if you want to avoid spoilers. Part 3 of Blades opens with a revelation that Ellen, the woman who Cavalier rescued from taking her own life, is a murderer who had killed her abusive husband. However, Randall Salt, this guy I showed in the previous issue, witnessed the murder happen and took the murder weapon, a kitchen knife holding Ellen's fingerprints and her dead husband's blood, into his possession. While Salt did help Ellen in cleaning up the crime scene and forging a story to the police, he eventually began to blackmail Ellen for her silence until she was left with no money and she was at the verge of taking her own life. After Cavalier rescued Ellen, fell in love with her at first sight, and heard her story, he demanded Salt to hand over the murder weapon, but his Zorro-like approach did not work on Salt or his lawyers, who then coerced him to commit the robberies for them in exchange for the knife. Now, as a wanted criminal, Cavalier cannot turn back on the choices he has made, and leaves to exchange his stolen loot to Salt for the murder weapon. While this has been happening, Batman's butler Alfred has had enough of his master's obsessive behavior, and with the exploding stage and the Bat-Gyro crashing, forces Batman to sleep and try to recover from his feverish state brought by his obsessive hunt for Mr. Lime. As he sleeps, Bruce Wayne's dreams are plagued with visions of his parents' deaths, because of course they are, of his enemies, and his disappointment over Cavalier's betrayal of his trust. But dreaming about Cavalier's last words to him, Bruce receives an epiphany that leads him to realize who Mr. Lime is. So far, all of Mr. Lime's victims had been killed distantly, with bombings, hit and runs, sabotaging the brake lines of their cars, the arson attack on the nursing home, and the previous attempt on the veteran actor's life with another bomb. All of those murders and attempts at murder had been committed from a distance without getting close to the victims, except for one case. A wealthy couple in their 70s were killed in their beds as a crime of passion. That was the only time when Mr. Lime had managed to get close to his victims, all the way inside their home.
Your murders seemed random. No pattern to them. If you'd stopped earlier, I might not have seen their link. All the killings, the long-range rifles, the bombs, and crossbows. All killings from a distance. Killings where you were more concerned with eluding capture than with the murders themselves. The one time, the only time you got clean close was when you killed your own parents, cut their throats, made sure they were dead. You had to, for the money, to inherit their money. And the rest of the killings, and the persona of Mr. Lime, the hater of the aged, were just a smokescreen. Otherwise, you'd have been the obvious suspect for your parents' deaths. I'll say one thing. You're a great actor. I believed your grief and rage. I believed you were a morning sun instead of the common killer you are.
Even when Batman is still sick and in his feverish state, he confronts Mr. Lime, revealed to be a middle-aged son of the Devurst family. He catches Devurst in the middle of loading a shotgun, and thanks to his own frightening appearance, Batman manages to apprehend him and end Mr. Lime's murder spree. Meanwhile, the Cavalier arrives to deliver the goods to Randall Salt in exchange for the murder weapon Ellen used to kill her abusive husband. Even when Salt does hand over the bloody kitchen knife, he casually implies that, as a witness to the murder, he might call upon Ellen should he run out of funds, which leads to the Cavalier to declare two things. 1. I know how tempting it is to boast about future plans, but you really shouldn't, not to me. And 2. It appears the age of my being a gentleman has just passed. Cavalier murders Salt and his lawyer, damning himself for having enjoyed doing that. Having delivered the verse to GCPD, Batman is fully intending to returning home to rest and recover from his schooling obsession. However, Captain Gordon delivers him the message that Cavalier wants to meet with him. The third meeting goes on in a calm and civilized manner, with Batman acknowledging that Cavalier did save his life from the Batgyro's crash, and from that obligation, suggest him to return what he has stolen and vanish without the fear of being chased by him. But having recently committed murder, Cavalier confesses that no debt of gratitude would stop Batman from hunting him down, and throws Batman one of his rapiers. Confused? Look, I try to help someone I care about. In the process, I've stolen and murdered. But worse is that I've come to enjoy these crimes. It's thrilling. There is more to risk. A rush. So now what do I do? Do I continue as a criminal? Or do I vanish, get away? I've been lucky, I know that. But there is no point in having luck unless you push it. So it is a duel. Let fate decide what's to happen to me, and let's see if I am as good as I think I am.
We're fighting to the death.
Anything can happen in the heat of battle, Batman. Engage! And they duel with rapiers on the rooftops, not realizing that both of them are in their own way handicapped. Batman is still sick from his hunt for Mr. Lime, and Cavalier is tired from the pretense. Ultimately, their duel leads them to the roof of a warehouse storage that cannot support their weight, and as Batman is the heavier muscle man, his weight is what caused the roof to give in. Cavalier falls in behind him in an attempt to save Batman from falling. It is then revealed that the GCPD has monitored and followed their duel and quickly set up a cordon around the warehouse storage, which Ellen is somehow able to break through. Inside the warehouse storage, Batman is in a bad shape, blacking out and ready to let Cavalier do what he will. but Ellen's arrival stops anything from happening. What happens next is a powerful ending to the story and the Cavulier's character arc that I once again need to read from the dialogue in this scene. God help this city if it loses both of its champions. I was hoping this would end differently, Batman. That you'd finish me off. Let me end this whole sorry mess in a high note. Now I shall finish it myself. Remember, Batman, the potential for evil is in every man. In every man, even you. Hudson, please, don't. I could confess, explain everything. That would not excuse me for killing Salt, and then all I've done would be for nothing. But I love you. Too late, I hear the words. Then keep that feeling in your heart, and perhaps we'll be lovers in the next life. With those final words, Cavalier throws away his rapier and confronts the GCPD with an unloaded gun, going away in a blaze of glory that leaves Batman haunted with the final words about the potential of evil being in every man, even himself. Blades is written by James Robinson and illustrated by Tim Sale. Robinson has since become famous for stories about the Justice Society of America, Starman, and the New 52's Earth 2 storyline before Tom Taylor took over it. Sale, on the other hand, is best known for being the artist behind Batman stories such as The Long Halloween, The Dark Victory, and Superman for All Seasons. What I enjoy in Blades is Cavulier's character arc. Batman describes him to Captain Gordon as someone he perhaps would have become under different circumstances. His Zorro like approach to crime fighting is delightful to witness in contrast to Batman's more serious activities in hunting Mr. Lime. Both Cavalier and Batman are portrayed as active protagonists, and their paralleling character arcs are the experience that pushes the reader into going forward. And Batman's early acceptance to letting Cavalier operate alongside with him makes it interesting to see where it goes from there. As the story progresses, they both take their damage, with Cavalier's reputation going from the hero of the people to being a pariah, and Batman's health getting worse with his obsessive hunt for Mr. Lime. Both arcs seem different in the beginning, as Batman is hunting his own antagonist in Mr. Lime, and Cavalier does not exactly have an antagonist to go against until he rescues Ellen and is coerced into criminal activities by Randall South. Ultimately, both Batman and the Cavalier confront their own antagonists in their own ways, and in the end are left to confront each other with the toll they have been left with from their journeys. Cavalier, because he knows he cannot win himself a happy ending anymore, and Batman, because he has to deal with the criminal that Cavalier has become. As a story, Blades is perfectly self contained. It is set during Batman's second year, and the events from before or after it are not important, meaning that you can go into it just needing to know who Batman is. Cavalier's identity is later into Batman's career taken over by a man named Mortimer Drake, no relation to the third Robin, I checked. But in the end, Blades is Hudson Pyle's story. It begins and ends with him, while Batman shares the spotlight equally with him. That felt good to share. Much better Batman related video than that other short rant I did. Now, it's time for me to go back to reading another audiobook chapter of the Kingdom Hearts novel. Until then, may your heart be your guiding key.